All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. As we speak, remember, more than 2.3 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have been cut off for over 6 long days from all access to food, water and electricity. This is a siege that has sparked a humanitarian crisis. On the other hand, you have this Israeli military that has mobilized more than 360,000 soldiers and reservists, and it says that it is preparing for the next stage of war. The Israeli troops are getting up for strikes from air, sea and land, and they say that they are likely to carry out significant ground operations in the Gaza Strip. As we speak at this moment, at least about 2,300 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip because of Israel's repeated and relentless airstrikes that it continues to carry out. Now, WION's correspondent Sderot and also our video journalist Sanjeet Tiwari at this moment are in the town of Sderot, and they are continuing to bring us live updates in terms of what is happening at this moment in this war that has broken out between the state of Israel and the Palestinian territory of Gaza. A threat of a ground assault is very imminent. This is what the situation looks like at the moment. Israel is mobilizing more and more of its armor, more and more of its soldiers, and it has completely surrounded the Gaza Strip. It has amassed at this moment 360,000 troops. This is more troops than what Russia had mobilized in the initial days of its invasion of Ukraine. Now, dozens and dozens of tanks and other heavy armed vehicles have been positioned by the state of Israel near Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel. The Israeli soldiers, along with other reservists, have been deployed near the Gaza Strip, and they've completely surrounded this tiny patch of territory that 2.3 million Gazan civilians call their home. In addition to this, there have been sporadic instances when rocket sirens have been heard in the Gazan border town of Nahal Oz. Now, there are no reports at this moment of any damage or injuries. Meanwhile, the southern border city of Sderot is being evacuated by the Israelis as the country is preparing for a ground incursion into the Gaza Strip. But remember, for the last 48 hours, Israel has been testing the ground by sending in small raids inside the Gaza territory, and it now remains to be seen as to when Israel will carry out its big raid that it has been talking about for the last several days now. All of this is happening in the back of the massive military deployment in southern Israel. The WION's team is in fact at the location and continues to bring live updates of this conflict between Israel and the Palestinian territory of Gaza. But the big story at this moment is about the humanitarian disaster that is playing out in the Gaza Strip. Now, the Israeli attacks are currently underway at a firing range in Lebanon as well. Earlier, there was firing that was reported at an Israeli settlement across the border. Following the incident, the Israeli forces reportedly have said that they want to isolate an area of about 4 kilometers from the northern border with Lebanon. Now, the IDF has clarified that entering this area is strictly prohibited for common people. So there is a possibility, potentially, that Hezbollah in southern Lebanon could get involved because of the violence that we are witnessing between the Israelis and the Gaza Strip, which is being pounded to pulp at the moment as we speak. The United States is playing a pretty big role in this war. Remember this. It has now dispatched a ship to the state of Israel to try and bring back all of the American citizens who are stranded in the state of Israel. This ship is going to take the U.S. nationals and their families from Haifa to the Cyprus port tomorrow. The Australian Foreign Ministry, Penny Wong, has also confirmed that new chartered and military flights for the citizens, Australian citizens, are being scheduled for picking up the Australians from Israel. The travel advisory urges all Australians to consider the first available option to leave from Israel as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has said that Israel's actions in Gaza have now gone well beyond the scope of self-defense. This is no longer self-defense, is how the Chinese are characterizing the Israeli actions in the Gaza Strip, and that the Israeli government demand the Chinese should cease the collective punishment of the people of the Gaza Strip. Now, Wang Yi made these comments during his call to his Saudi Arabian counterpart, saying that all parties should now ensure that nothing is done to escalate the situation further from here. Now, Hamas has told the people not to be cowed down by the psychological warfare that Israel is waging. It has told the people not to leave. And it has told the people that even though the Israelis claim that they would not bomb the convoys of people who are fleeing away, it has pointed to instances where people who are trying to flee from northern Israel to southern Israel, their convoys have been attacked and dozens of lives have been lost. Now, Israel says Hamas, for its part, is also preventing people from leaving in order to use them as human shields. That, of course, is the Israeli explanation. And WION's principal diplomatic correspondent, Sderot, is at this moment in ground zero and is tracking all the developments as they are unfolding in this war that is taking place between Israel and the Palestinian territory of Gaza. Listen in to what he has to say.
I'm here in Sderot, a southern Israeli town which was the ground zero of the Hamas attack. Today, this town is a ghost town with no civilians present. All of them have been evacuated, and this area is very close to the Gaza border. Since morning, we have seen palpable tension on the ground. We have seen troop movement happening, the movement of the tanks towards southern Israel, and heavy artillery as well here in Sderot, where there was violence, the terror attack by Hamas. We saw how essentially there are bullets on the roads and there are vehicles with bullet marks, but that is something that shows that how brutal was the terror attack. The country is still reeling under the terror attack, and there are worries over the evacuation of several Israeli nationals who have been taken as hostages by Hamas in Gaza. But Israel has made it clear that it will take strong action against Gaza, and it has been calling that the Gazans should leave northern part of Gaza Strip towards southern part, but that can lead to a major humanitarian challenge and a crisis. With video journalist Sanjeet Sudhansibal for WION in Sderot, southern Israel.
All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what is happening at this moment and how things are likely to get worse here, we're being joined by Dr. Kivrat Jangid, who is currently the visiting faculty at the Ben Gurion University in Israel, and he's also an associate professor and director of Center for Israeli Studies at the O.P. Jindal Global University, and he's joining us live from Tel Aviv at this moment. Now, Professor, this is a pretty delicate moment in this conflict that has broken out as we speak. This is day 8 of the conflict, and there is a humanitarian catastrophe that is playing out in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip for the last 6-7 days has been under a complete blockade, and more than 2.3 million people at this moment have been cut off from access to food, water, electricity, and in some cases even internet. Can the situation improve from here?
Well, Mohammed, the situation is very worrisome, and the only way it will improve if Egypt, with the assistance of other Arab states and American and European aid, will allow the people of Gaza to cross the Rafah border and walk into Egypt. I think for the last 6 days, America and other Arab states have been talking with Egypt and convincing Egypt that they will share the cost, that Egypt needs to allow these people to settle in Egyptian territories for a while, or maybe walk through Egypt to some other parts. But that's a one possible humanly and dignified solution. Else, moving these people from one part of the Gaza to another part of the Gaza is extremely, extremely dangerous, because it's a very small piece of land. And as you pointed out rightly, Israel has carried out bombs at night, and they have, not discriminated where the residential parts are and where the Hamas operations are. Now, here also it's very important that Hamas for decades has operated from the thick, dense residential areas. In fact, some of the times when Hamas operations were caught, their rocket launchers were caught from the schools that are run by the United Nations and the aid agencies. So they do operate from very, very critical areas of human life, and that puts the whole people of Gaza in jeopardy.
Right.
So I think this time Israel will take no excuse and take no blame for the collateral damage that's going to happen, particularly after what happened to Israel. I think Israel feels that it doesn't have to now abide by any laws of the international conventions.
Dr. Jangid, when Israel behaves in this manner, it's pretty dangerous. And also what we've been witnessing is collective punishment of the people of Gaza. Now, Hamas carried out that horrific attack into the state of Israel on the 7th of October. Now, Hamas needs to be made accountable for it. But for the actions of Hamas, Israel subjecting 2.3 million innocent civilians who've got nothing to do with this violence is essentially a war crime.
Well, I wouldn't jump to that, because for the last 6 days, from the day one, when the Prime Minister of Israel spoke on the Saturday evening, he did say and alerted the people of the Gaza to leave. Second day, when he spoke again, he alerted the people to leave Gaza as soon as we can.
But can they leave Gaza? Is there a possibility that these people who are caught up in this crisis, is there even a place where they can actually go? Many are saying that this reminds them of the experience of their grandfathers and grandmothers who lived through the Nakba, where they were expelled from their homes. And many of them are saying that this feels like a rerun of that all over again.
It's true. Most of the people who are in Gaza are actually refugees who lost their homes either in 1948 or after the 1967 war, when Israel captured West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the other territories. It is a fact that Palestinians are the victims here. But I think in the historical context of the conflict, I often think of what Edward Said said, that the Palestinians are the victims of the victims. I think the violence and the cycle of the violence, particularly after what methods Hamas has used and what its political and the religious objectives are, has put the people of Gaza in far worse situation than the people, the Palestinian community in West Bank. So you're right. I think that the world needs to really help the people of Gaza and not let them be punished in a collective manner.
And also, Professor, there are reports that are coming in where this is according to the Israeli intelligence. They say that they have actually managed to take down the top commander of the Al-Qassam brigade that planned and executed that attack into Israel on the 7th of October. They managed to pin down this individual known as Bilal al-Qadra in the city of Khan Yunis. They've done this yesterday night. This is what the Israeli intelligence claims. So if they are taking out the top leadership of Hamas and those people who perpetrated that attack, that is the manner in which one expects them to go about. But collective punishment of the people of Palestine is not the strategy that one hopes would be employed. But do you think the Israelis at this moment, how do you see will end this war? Because this war has got to end in some way. Would they be happy if the perpetrators of the attack are all brought to justice, or are they looking at clearing up at least the northern part of Gaza and go ahead with the ground invasion that they say that they would want to do?
That's actually the goal. If we look at the statement of Israel to Egypt 4 days back, they told officially Egyptian state that we are going to be in Gaza for months. I think taking commanders out, attacking and killing them, targeted assassinations used to be the strategies of Israel for the last decade and a half. But this time something has fundamentally changed about Hamas and its engagement with Israel. I see the end goal as complete clearing of Gaza from the Hamas tunnels and Hamas operating places.
Right.
I personally, at a great cost it will be, but Israel will be in Gaza for months to come. Their agenda is to completely take out Hamas out of Gaza. And by the way, it happened to once upon a time to PLO. If you remember, in 1982, Israeli army went to Lebanon to take out a Palestinian Liberation Organization at that time led by Yasser Arafat. And Arafat had to take all of his men, around 10,000, and run to Tunisia in 1982. The Lebanese invasion of Israel ended only in 2000. So I think Israelis are going back to their rule book and thinking that Hamas should not anymore operate from Gaza. Wherever it will operate, we will deal with that. And I wonder if Qatar or Iran will really give their lands for Hamas to operate from.
All
It's
right.
very sad.
All
What
right.
is interesting is that once again, this conflict is becoming a regional conflict, not because of the other Arab states, but because of Iran. I think Iran is playing a big role here.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Jangid, for joining us and giving us your views on this issue.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.